Off to a bad start already. It's where the death lineup is back. We're a day early because I will be in Las Vegas this weekend. So I needed to get some of the stuff that I usually do during the week. I needed to move it up. So Brian was able to join me Wednesday evening, and we're going to talk a little bit of Warriors. And Bri, it has been a week and some change since the Warriors have been kicked out of the playoffs. You've been watching some of this playoffs. Do you think the Warriors had any sort of chance whatsoever against Denver if they had gotten past the Lakers?
If they got past the Lakers, it was going to be in 7. So no, they had no chance. They were going to be super tired, and I feel like that's kind of what killed them a lot in the Lakers series. So I think they could have gotten a game or maybe 2 just based on how the way they've attacked Jokic in the past. But Denver's playing at a different level right now. I don't think they would have won the series.
I would agree with you. I think the one thing that is a little bit different from what I saw with LA is that as good as LeBron played, like LeBron played really good basketball, they didn't have anybody. And I guess Austin Reeves would be the closest person to hit that dagger shot to put any fear whatsoever in Denver. I think Denver played that series going like, okay, we can let them have theirs. We're just better. We're not really scared of anybody. Like at the end of the series, they knew that LeBron was so tired, so they're just leaving him open. They just didn't want him to get to the paint. And I think that's what they would have been scared of is Steph or Clay going nuclear and swinging the crowd and getting the crowd crazy. And then if you're Denver, you're like, oh no, we've seen this before. So I think Denver would have beat the Warriors in 6, but I do think Steph Curry gets them 2 games at least.
Do you think there's a shot Sacramento got a game off of Denver? I think there is.
I think Sacramento could have gotten a game or 2 out of Denver. Yes.
I think so. I mean, Minnesota got 1. They almost got 2.
Because they're just so athletic and fast, and they would put Jokic into stuff that would probably tire him out a little bit. They don't really have the big to sit there and so Jokic would also get his, but I think they would probably make him run around a lot and yeah, but still, I think Denver's the best team. We saw that during the regular season. We also thought that even though we were kind of looking at the stats late in the year going like, oh man, they're losing all these games and they're not that good on the road. But if you wanted to say Milwaukee or if you wanted to say Boston, those are arguable, but Denver was, regular season wise, at least they seemed like they were the best team. And I'm glad to see them in the finals. Now on the other side, did you see the Miami Heat thing coming?
No, I've been counting them out literally every time. Like Bucks, I said this wasn't going to be a serious series. Bucks in 5. Giannis goes down. I don't know if this is a hot take. I don't think it's a hot take. If Giannis doesn't get hurt by Kevin Love, I think Milwaukee wins that series. But he comes back. Miami has momentum. Miami senses that if they get game, I want to say it was 4 and go up 3-1, that it was over. And I feel like they just like turned on the Jets even when Giannis was back and were like, we can't give this game up. We can't not let it get to 3-1. And then they took the next game too. I think, and then against New York, I thought that Milwaukee was being stubborn in how they guarded Jimmy Butler, and they were like, "Oh, we have Drew Holiday. We have like the best pound for pound defender in the league, so we're just gonna let him go straight up 1-on-1 against Jimmy." And Jimmy just torched him the entire time. So I thought New York would watch that and go, "Okay, let's double Jimmy and make their supporting cast beat us," because the supporting cast hasn't beaten really anyone all season. That's why they weren't that good, because their supporting cast couldn't shoot threes. And they shot well against Miami, and then they went on to shoot well against New York. And I was like, okay, well, no way Boston loses to them, right? And it's just like, I feel like I'm going to pick Denver, and I'm just going to like screw over Denver if both teams go to if Miami doesn't blow a 3-0 lead, which has never been done in NBA history.
You know why I didn't think that Miami was going to do much is because even though they took Boston to the limit last year, I just always felt that Boston was going to win that series because of the talent. And so when they won, I was like, yeah, that's kind of, the Miami took it about as far as they could take it. I did not see this fourth level or whatever you want to call it, this next level. I didn't see it in them, the playoff turn up. I just
like, I feel like I feel like I need to like study this team. Like, what the hell happened? Like, I feel like when a team does really well, like say they go to the finals or something, like the NBA is a copycat league, right? Like you want to see what they did well, put that into your own formula, whether it's roster, whether it's game plan, and just it's a copycat league. I can't tell you what Miami's doing. Like I genuinely don't. Is it literally just like Jimmy Butler has been like a top 3 player this whole time, and we just didn't know that? Like it's I just don't know what to copycat really. It just feels like such a weird. It all just still doesn't even feel right.
He is a man possessed, and he is feeling it. He's feeling the momentum. He probably feels like he's in a zone right now. And I don't think Denver, the way that they play defense, they're not really going to stop him. He'll still be able to do stuff and do it at a high level. And it's going to be a really good back and forth series. You come down to who's the best player on the court. It's probably going to be Jokic, and that's probably why they're going to win. But
Yeah.
interesting series, and we're already calling it for Miami. They're up 3-1. If any city can come back from 3-0, it's Boston. I know that's what they're thinking.
Yeah.
Like if any city, it's gonna be us. But we'll see. They come home and then they go. They would have to win home, away, home to close them out. So 2 games at home, but you gotta win one at a time. So that's going to be an interesting thing to see because I just figured, okay, Miami's going to close it at home because just the thought of having to go back to Boston, and then if they can actually win 2 in a row, then there's momentum, and then you got to come home, and there might be some tight butt cheeks going on at home. I thought they would close them out, but kudos to Boston for not getting closed out on the road.
Yeah, they've been so disappointing. Like that's another one where it's like I genuinely feel like in today's NBA, like if I were to try to create a team from scratch from like a laboratory, like I'd probably create the Boston Celtics. Just your best 2 players are these two-way wings hypothetically. You've surrounded yourself with 3-and-D players, guys who can guard point of attack defense, guys who can play really well help defense. Your center and Rob Williams like doesn't really command anything offensively. He's just pure defense, doesn't really get played off the court. Al Horford, a strong vet who could just space the floor and play good defense. Like they just, I feel like their kryptonite is just butt cheeks. Like they're just the ultimate butt cheeks team.
Oh man, yeah. It's gonna be a long off season if they lose, or I mean, more than likely gonna lose. They could make it interesting though.
Yeah, I mean, we said their weaknesses when they were going up against the Warriors on how Jaylen Brown's kind of dribbling into a wall, like just because he thinks he's more athletic than people. Marcus Smart's decision making down the stretch, Tatum's lack of physicality going to the rim, like those were all pretty prevalent in our series. And I feel like the only thing that's gotten better this time around is Tatum's less afraid to go to the rim, less afraid of contact going to the rim. The Brown thing's still there, the Smart thing's still there, so that's definitely concerning.
All right, let's turn to the Warriors offseason. And last week, we talked a lot about Bob Myers. We talked about some of the things that they may do, but I wanted to hold off the larger Jordan Poole, Draymond Green conversation. And so I figured, it's a slow news week. Nothing's really happening. Everyone's kind of waiting to see the playoffs. Though, the franchise, the decision makers, the players, they are seemingly willing to talk a little bit more about that Draymond Jordan Poole punch. So that's why we're talking about it now. Steve Kerr said, definitely affected them. I've seen Draymond say that it definitely affected them. Well, I mean, duh, we kind of figured that watching the way that they started the season. But my question to you is, can these guys stay on the same roster next year, or are they going to have these same issues? Now, there's also a monetary thing, right? Because Draymond is coming up. More than likely, he's going to opt out and he'll be a free agent. No, I say more than likely, but we don't know. Maybe the offers aren't out there and he decides not to. But if you have to bring back Draymond, knowing how much they're into the tax, is Jordan Poole's contract the one that gets offloaded? And it's kind of a twofold deal. There's a money aspect to it, but there's also a team chemistry aspect to it. And it's unfortunate that the guy who gets punched would be the guy that you ship away rather than the guy who punched. Yeah, but that's just the way that it is because Draymond is so. Steve Kerr said, "We are not a championship contending team without Draymond." That tells me they feel like Draymond is maybe the second or third most important player on this team, and that makes Jordan Poole like fifth or sixth.
Yeah, that's just life, man. The guy who gets punched is the guy who gets effed. That's what America's been this whole time, right? Oh, okay. But no, I don't think. I think short answer, yeah, Jordan Poole's gone. I don't think there's a way you can repair this. Long answer, yeah, I think he's gone too. But I just think that it's kind of cliche and kind of cringy, but vibes is a legit thing. Like having good vibes around the team.
Yeah.
Like I was watching a video the other day of last year's bench, and someone said something about this on Twitter and just got like immediately shut down, and like he was saying something dumb. But there's a clear distinctive difference between last year's bench on how they celebrated their teammates, how they celebrated big shots, how they celebrated little shots, how they celebrated clutch kind of games, differing from how this year's bench with the lack of enthusiasm. And I feel like this Jordan Poole thing has kind of weighed over the whole team. It's been like a bad aura. And it's Draymond's fault. But last year the clip I was watching was just a Steph to GP lob. It might have been that one that got the cool picture, but it could have just been really any Steph to GP lob. And JTA sees it coming from 5 seconds before it happens and just jumps as high as he can out of his seat into the air, and then the whole bench goes nuts. Like that's just something that didn't happen this year, out except for like a few select moments. And I just think that team vibes for championship teams are just like you should now, looking back at it now, like I should have been able to see it night and day of just championship teams have a different type of vibe, type of feel around them, that they all have this collective goal and they all are striving for it together, when I feel like this team was just a lot of other outside noise leaking in.
There's reason for that, though, right? When you have a Damian Lee, when you have a JTA, those guys know what their role is.
Yeah.
Moses Moody and JK think that they should be on the court. Those guys knew that they should not have been on the court in bigger moments. In some instances, yeah, they're good role players. They could be called on to play a good 4 minutes that the Warriors need. But these other guys, Moses Moody, JK, they believe that they're good and that they could play big minutes now. So that's where the frustration comes in, is that they don't even think they should be on the bench. And that's
a
they're
great
not.
point. And I also think adding to that, no, that's actually an excellent point, because yeah, they're not going to be too excited jumping up and down on the bench because they feel like that should be them. But from the JTA and Damian Lee standpoint of being the vets who are just being like hyper on the bench, like I feel like JaMychal Green was maybe supposed to take that kind of role, but
No,
that
that
guy's
dude
not.
that dude thought he was supposed to play too.
that guy's just like, I'm saying, like in that stage of his career, being
Yeah.
that vet maybe, but no, that's just not, doesn't seem who he is at all.
Well, he thought he was going to be Otto Porter, right? And he probably saw what the Warriors did in the finals, where Otto is like starting, and he's probably like, yeah, that could be me. So when that wasn't him at all in the season and then in the playoffs, then I could see him frustrated. But then Kerr goes and starts him in a couple games in that Lakers series, and then he hits 2 threes, and all of a sudden, he probably thinks he should be playing again. But I'm not going to discredit these guys for wanting to get in and maybe not being the greatest cheerleaders. I remember, this is actually very funny. I just thought about this. So I was a junior in high school, and I was like on the cusp of starting. Some things had to happen where someone went into pitch, and then I would play. And when I was not playing, I wanted to be such a good person in the dugout, cheering and firing people up and keeping the noise going and backing up my team. And my dad, your grandfather, was like, yeah, but you don't want to do that too much, because then that's how they see you. They see you as that guy rather than as somebody who really believes that they should be playing. So there's a fine line there. And that's actually an interesting, I'm sure there's someone has written a really smart piece about, benches in that way. But the Warriors have, they've had these high draft picks, and, James Wiseman him having the long, sad face on the bench because he's not playing. They got rid of that problem and they added somebody who knows his role. Gary Payton knows his role. So you exchange that, but you still have, Moody and Kuminga. And next year, if they do not break the seal and they aren't 7th and 8th guy on the roster, it's going to be worse, I feel like.
Yeah. It yeah, I'm looking forward to this offseason, but I'm absolutely terrified of this offseason. That's kind of just where I'm at. Yeah, like if you replace Jordan Poole, like I just feel like you're going for a big fish. Like you can't just sell low on his value or I think whatever the Jordan Poole package is, it means you're getting rid of rotation players for the Warriors. And I've seen trades of let's just say, I think I've seen a Siakam to the Trailblazers trade where it was a 3-team trade and the Trailblazers had to get rid of the number 3 pick, which they could use for like a Brandon Miller who's ready to play right now, who they could plug and play right into the rotation. Not saying that's a good idea for them, but hypothetically, that's a rotation player they just got rid of in this potential Siakam trade. They're also getting rid of Anthony Simons in this potential trade, their second best player, the number 2 guy in the rotation. And I think they're getting rid of Nasir Little, who is also in their rotation. Like when you start to think about, okay, yeah, we're getting a star player in Siakam, who's a proven all NBA guy, a 2-way player, but you're getting rid of 3 rotation guys who got heavy minutes. Like that starts to seem a lot harder to stomach or replace in some ways. And I feel like the more and more I see these Jordan Poole potential trades, and we're losing a lot of rotation guys, only getting 1 guy in return. Like that guy better be a guy.
Well, okay, so here's what happened with the Lakers. The Lakers made this trade where Russ being on the roster was worse off for the Lakers, even though then he goes to the Clippers and he plays actually pretty well. So, but them getting rid of him actually helps the chemistry. It helps the locker room. I'm sure it helps the relationship with the media, so the fit. And so what they do is they bring in Jared Vanderbilt, they bring in Malik Beasley, they bring in deloading, and really, if you look at who played in the playoffs, none of those 3 guys really did anything in the Western Conference Finals. What it did was it allowed Austin Reeves to blossom.
That's a good point.
And so at the same time, though, they still didn't have a bench. They didn't have a bench that they could turn to. You're playing Tristan Thompson in 2023 minutes because you don't really have any size outside of Davis. And, Jokic is giving you fits. Their bench was really lost. And you would have thought that what they did was to bring in pieces that could play. None of those guys could really play. You started to see Vanderbilt not even playing against the Warriors. And, D'Angelo did have a couple of good games against the Warriors, but he also had a couple bad ones. So even when you make that kind of trade, where you send a big fish away and you bring in pieces, sometimes it doesn't work. But in this case, what I wonder is if you talk to Moody and Kuminga, and then it's also going to be PBJ, and it's also going to be Ryan Rollins, because you just have this influx of young guys, and Anthony Lamb is there, and he's going to want to play. But you tell these guys, like, the stronger that our second team is, when you get to the playoffs, you guys become dependable, and we can actually trust you in these moments that maybe young players don't really get to play a lot. And there's going to be this conversation about Jalen Green at some point. Like, can Jalen Green become the player that people think he can be? Is he going to do that on the Rockets, or is he going to really need some structure and someone to go, hey, dude, like you can score 20 points a game, no problem, but that doesn't mean you're going to be a good player. Like, you have so much ceiling left. And, for JK or for Moody, if Jordan Poole is off this team, does that open up a spot for them? And because they could be like blood in the water, right? For Sharks, they're like, oh, I'm going to miss the guy because he's a good guy. But guess what? I just went one step up that ladder. And I wonder if they see it like that. But then again, depending on if you do trade JP, you're going to probably bring someone back, and they may step into that. But I just kind of wonder the psychology with these young
Yeah.
guys and what the agents are telling them, what the coaches are telling them. How do you prepare for this season when it looks like the Warriors want to run it back? That's what it looks like. It looks like Steph, Clay, and Draymond are like, we deserve to run it back. This is not the last dance. We still are running things. And so you got Kuminga and Moody just being like, great, but if we were on this other team, we're playing 25, 30 minutes a game and we're increasing our value. And, that's also a part of this is they aren't able to increase their value playing on such a veteran laden team.
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah. You know me. I was the two timeline pusher. But I just have this feeling that the Warriors can't sit on their hands in the offseason, and I don't think they will. But I mean, in terms of not making any major moves. Like I feel like I said this in our chat, but I feel like the Suns are looking to add their third star. And I think that the third star they're eyeing could potentially, make them better. Not like, the Lakers going after Westbrook and screwing up their fit. I feel like Phoenix can maybe go for like a James Harden and, Phoenix, then maybe the Lakers could be like, okay, well, if we want to stay relevant, we have to go get Kyrie Irving. I just feel like.
You see what Jalen Rose said?
What did Jalen Rose say?
Jalen Rose said, D'Angelo Russell not getting to play and Kyrie Irving being in the front row. that kind of tells you where things are going. That's what he said.
Yeah.
I don't know if that means that Kyrie's going, but he was kind of saying like there's a pattern here. Like
okay, Kyrie went to, I believe it was game 5 or game 7 of Warriors versus Kings.
Yeah,
kind of a random one
there.
for him to be there. But yeah, no, that should be him just like looking at Pelinka or looking at Bus and like, this is your point guard.
Yeah.
But no, I think the West is loading up, and they always do. But it does feel like, with KD and Devin Booker leading the Suns and potentially getting a James Harden, I'm just saying like this Warriors team running it back can't get it done. Like I feel like, this was a weird season, and of course Draymond Poole punch thing. Steph, I don't know if I could depend on Steph for 65 regular season games. That's why Poole was so important in that position, being another shot creator to, keep them alive for a lot of those regular season games. If you lose Jordan Poole, you really need to replace that with a shot creator. I just don't know. I just don't think they do nothing because I don't think this team running it back gets it done. So
who do you gun to your head?
LeBron James.
Before I don't even know if I want LeBron on this team. Before the playoffs started, and I would have said gun to your head, who would you rather have, Jordan Poole or Austin Reeves? Who would you have said?
Jordan Poole before the playoffs, 100% Jordan Poole.
But then after these playoffs, would that be the same answer?
We're doing recency bias though, because after the playoffs, we crowned Jordan Poole. Like I feel like once defenses start adjusting to Austin Reeves, maybe he doesn't get the nicest whistle. I feel like his games just could potentially be what happened to Jordan. I feel like it's a similar type of player.
But when you look at the ability to kind of guide the offense, now Austin Reeves does not have the athletic gifts that Jordan Poole has. Jordan Poole, he is so quick. He kind of psychs himself out. He's so quick because he wants it to also look great. It's like, dude, you got the first step, just go. But there is he didn't have a handle. He didn't look like he was leading the offense as much when he was in. He looked like he was trying to create, and then if he got stopped, then he had to do something else. So if he couldn't get to the basket, then something happened. He wasn't like in the rhythm of the offense necessarily. And maybe that's part of his freedom, is that Kerr knows he has such a great ability to get to the hole, and that's what we need. So if he has that opportunity, he can do it. But Austin Reeves, he looked like he was able to manage certain things. Like if guys got cold, you started to see him cook a little bit, and it wasn't just the penetration, because that's not his strong point. It was get to the paint, fade away. It was, use a screen, get open, step back three. And that's the stuff that I feel like Jordan should be way better at, but he wasn't this year. Being able to take advantage of a defense that maybe is focusing on Steph a lot, and then you go, oh, we have this guy here who can hit the open shot. That's what it looked like Austin Reeves did for the Lakers, and I kind of wonder. I'm like, man, if Austin Reeves is in that Jordan Poole spot, I wonder if the Warriors are still playing.
Yeah, I feel like Austin Reeves had his Jordan Poole moment. Like
And maybe he did. It's possible that he did.
He did. He didn't bother the Warriors until Game 5. Like he was nothing until Game 5.
I thought Clay played him really well, actually.
Clay played him excellently. That was like his counter was Clay.
Yeah, no, some of it is definitely recency bias, but it's good podcast fodder because, if you ask Laker fans, they're reacting to what he did, and they're like, 20 million, you got to bring him back. And before the playoffs started, it was like, how much is he going to get? He'll get 10, 11 million. And now like the number's all the way up to 20. I don't know what the number exactly is, but you got to think that there's a team out there that is going to try and put that offer sheet out of the reach of what the Lakers would want. Like, let's say the Lakers are like, 4 for 60. And someone goes, well, how about 4 for 80? And then do the Lakers match that? I think they probably do. But
is he restricted free agent?
Yeah.
Is he?
Yeah.
Oh.
He and Rui are restricted. D'Angelo
how did he
Russell
get? How does
is not
I need to understand? I need to understand how that stuff works.
I think it's only a 2-year thing for second round draft picks.
He was undrafted though, right?
Oh, is that what it was? So maybe you only have a 2-year deal rather than the 3+.
I guess so.
So yeah, I don't know, but
yeah, I mean, the thing about him is that he fits a lot of young teams' timelines.
Mm-hmm.
Like he would. I'm sure a lot of those young teams with cap space, San Antonio, Houston, and they've got to be eyeing him. So,
and this is not me saying I want Austin and I don't want Jordan. I don't make me pull out my Jordan Poole cards right on camera to show how much I like him, but it's just some of it is so unfortunate because you can see the lack of trust that he feels and that he has on the court. Like you could just see it, that there was a problem. And in a free and loving spirited Jordan Poole, maybe that's a different player for us this year. And we wouldn't even be having this conversation. So that's why this conversation is so unfortunate, because the human piece of this, which is getting in a fight with your teammate who's supposed to be your bodyguard and instead is your bully, man, that's got to mess with you for a while there. So,
yeah.
All right. We're going to, this show's not going to be our normal hour-ish show because not a ton to talk about, but also because I'm scooting out of town and we kind of did this impromptu. But last week we introduced a segment called Bry's Fits. And these are guys who are possibly going to be around when the Warriors select at number 19 in this year's draft. Now, we talked about it last week. Who knows the type that, the type of fit they need, someone who can step in and play versus these projects, unless they stash them, in Europe or something. Last week, it was Chris Murray. Bry thought that Chris Murray could step on the court and play some minutes for the Warriors today. And so the next player that we're bringing up and we're going to talk about is Dereck Lively II. Talk about Dereck.
Yeah, I would like to preface this with, these last two players, and Chris Murray and Dereck Lively, they feel like I just went on Warriors Twitter and picked the first two names. I kid you not, me and my buddy Obi have been arguing these specific two players 5 months ago for the Warriors. Like we thought that these two were going to be available when they were picking, and we thought these two fit. So like, I think that it's just everyone else, I guess, has a similar idea as us. But Dereck Lively,
so Chris Murray, small forward. We talked about him possibly playing the 4, stretch 4. Dereck Lively is a 7'1" center.
Yes. And I could see the pushback if Warrior fans hear 7'1" center in the first round. We might start getting Wiseman flashbacks, but fear not. Dereck Lively is he's a super athlete, and he's the thing with Dereck Lively, he is very I don't want to use I'm going to say it though, but what you wanted Wiseman to be this year, you wanted him to be JaVale McGee.
Mm-hmm.
This guy could be that on steroids. This guy, I think
Rim run,
rim run, elite defense,
block shots,
block shots, has the potential to play a little defensive versatility where if he gets put into switches, you're not going to totally shoot yourself in the head if he's put on a small forward or a power forward. In pick and roll, he's going to play drop, but he sometimes plays this little like he plays the cat and mouse game kind of well in the pick and roll.
The hedge.
The thing that I feel like says Warriors about him is that he doesn't like. It's not that he doesn't really want to shoot, but he doesn't really want to shoot. Like he's not looking to get his whatsoever. He's just looking to dunk the ball in a lob situation, and I feel like that screams Warriors basketball for the center position. Guys who are willing to play DHO, guys who are willing to catch the ball in the paint and say, oh, there's Klay Thompson wide open in the corner. Let's kick it to him. I think the thing that's intriguing about this guy is, another Warriors thing in drafting, which might be lazy by Bob Myers. This guy was a number 3 high school recruit.
They love those guys, right?
They love those guys. They love those guys. They love the top 10 high school picks who maybe took a step back in college, whether it's James Wiseman, whether it's Dereck Lively, whether it's good old Nico Mannion, Jonathan Kuminga, Moses Moody. I'm sure there's a couple more that Kevon Looney was a top high school recruit. He was supposed to be like top 3 until he got a major injury.
He was going to be Kevon. He was going to be Kevon Durant.
Yeah. But yeah, Dereck Lively in high school, he showed that he did have a 3-point shot. It looked good.
Okay, but he only shot 15% last year.
Yep. So in college, he did not shoot the ball well whatsoever. He took, I think I saw a video that he took 17 attempts maybe like in all of college, and the shot form looked a little different and it was nowhere near. So I guess like you don't bet on when you're drafting this guy, you're not expecting him to stretch the floor, but it's like an added bonus if he could tap back into some of that high school stuff. But with Dereck Lively, I just think that he's a center that can fit what the Warriors do. And I think he's very willing to be in that type of system. The thing with James Wiseman, which I feel like didn't work, is that if he didn't get his touches, he sulked. If he made a mistake, he sulked. But it was really like that guy wanted to get involved and wanted like to score the basketball, wanted the basketball in his hands to put the ball in the hoop. Dereck Lively's not like that. He's willing to play the system. He's an athletic, like he has very similar athletic traits like James. They both could run the ball, run the break quick as hell, being 7 feet tall. Like they could be down and back. I'd be interested in seeing like, a down and back, who wins, James Wiseman or Dereck Lively. Like I'm sure it'd be pretty close because they're both that kind of athlete. I just think the difference here is that James Wiseman has more of an offensive bag. He's more versatile on offense, but he wanted the ball. The Warriors don't really want their center to have the ball in this kind of offense. Dereck Lively fits that mold more. Dereck Lively doesn't have offensive versatility yet. He's not going to develop any like dribble pull-up stuff, any like fadeaway mid-range stuff. He's just going to be run, dunk the ball, and we cross our fingers if he develops a 3-point shot. That's it. And I think I'm okay with that. Defensively though, that's where he's super intriguing. The block shots guy, the guy who you get switched on a forward and you're not totally mad about because he can move his feet really well. I think that there's a chance. Dereck Lively to me fits the new center mold that I really want for the Warriors, that I feel like Kevon Looney is a little bit of, but it's the Jalen Durans of the world. It's the Mark Williams of the world. I remember when we went to that Detroit Pistons game, you were watching Duran and you were like, wow, that guy killed us. Like he could be a guy who just like kind of torments the Warriors for a couple of years, little premeditated. He's a rookie, but he had a really good game against the Warriors. And I could totally see that. He's that type of mold, that type of center. Mark Williams, Jalen Duran. High end of it is like a Nicholas Claxton, Rob Williams.
They might be able to get Rob Williams if they want him.
Yeah. I think it's a center that's not super involved offensively. Like he's literally just there to, do the dunking and the lob catching, but defense, he's a threat. He's a guy who can with versatility, who could potentially switch. I think that's the new mold for the center. And I think that I want the Warriors to get one. Onyeka Okongwu is another one. And Onyeka's a little smaller, but Dereck Lively, I think if I pull up here, I think KOC's got him. It's got him shades of Willie Cauley-Stein.
Yeah, so I'll read it. I pulled it up because I was very interested in what he said, and in his latest mock draft, which was last week, he does have them going to the Warriors at 19. The pairing Willie Cauley-Stein, maybe the best case of Willie Cauley-Stein. We actually saw Willie Cauley-Stein in the
He was a Warrior.
pandemic year, and he was not great. But maybe if the Warriors were good, then maybe he's
He
helpful.
could have been helpful. Yeah.
All right, so here's the pluses that KOC has. You mentioned this, just being a finisher. Also, he has touch near the rim, and KOC believes he could eventually develop the 3-point shot. He says he's very comfortable in the corners, and he could have some untapped potential as a spot up. Loves to run the floor to get ahead of the defense. Is kind of what you're saying with Wiseman and him running a race. Getting Wiseman ahead of the defense because he can just beat the center down the floor. That was kind of one of the keys for Wiseman. 7'7", 7'8" wingspan. So this dude's got some long arms as well. And he says impactful help defender who covers a lot of ground and takes off in a blink for blocks on the inside. Now, the minuses are a little alarming. The term gentle giant is not necessarily the one you want to hear from somebody who you expect to be play some mean defense for the Warriors. He also said he's not vacuuming up the defensive rebounds like he did in high school, partly because, he's just so much more athletic than everybody in high school. So they were easier. So getting stronger, needs to get stronger. And defensively, and this is some of what you were saying, he may be a little bit too comfortable out there because he finds himself out of position in defending the perimeter with handoffs and such, and just inconsistent effort at high school, but something that he improved at Duke. That is maybe the scariest minus of all of them, because the effort thing, when you play around Draymond and you play around Steph and you play around Clay, and these guys are soaking their jerseys in a regular season game because they want to win so badly. That's definitely a minus for someone who's such a young kid too.
Yeah, those are good points. I pulled up the NBA. They kind of put together this list of routing you to different prominent mock drafts.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just going to read off some prominent publications and where they had Dereck Lively going. So CBS, they had Dereck Lively going number 18 to the Miami Heat. That's one pick before the Warriors. They had the Warriors selecting G.G. Jackson, one of my guys. Not good for the Warriors. So now we're in SB Nation. They had the Memphis Grizzlies selecting Dereck Lively at number 25.
Ooh, okay.
So that's a pretty big drop off. They had the Warriors selecting Leonard Miller of the G League Ignite.
Dereck Lively and Jaren Jackson on the same team.
Oh, God. Yeah.
Let
What are
them
they
go
thinking?
up and get shots and block them all.
Yeah. You said what the Ringer had. They had going to the Warriors.
Yeah.
At 19. The Athletic. Here's one.
Is this
they had
Sam?
him going Vicini. It's Sam Vicini. They had him going number 10 to the Dallas Mavericks. And I think Yahoo had him going also to the Warriors.
What about the Sports Illustrated guy? Oh, I guess he doesn't work for Sports Illustrated anymore. What is his name? The young guy, Jeremy something or other.
I'd probably have to know a last name there. The NBA did have something going to Sports Illustrated. Where'd I put it? Did they? Maybe they didn't have Sports Illustrated on this. It's kind of messed up. Maybe the NBA had one. Oh, their stops at 14. Thanks, guys. But no, I think what I really like about this draft is that, as you just saw by me reading Dereck Lively, who he's going to select him, there seems to be a pretty influx of trepidation and hesitation from picks number 13 all the way to 28. Mm-hmm. I think that's what makes this draft class exciting. I'm more on the optimistic side of how I view this draft class, and I'm saying picks 13 or 14 through 28, this draft class has a lot of back-end lottery talent all the way through 28, whereas some people might be saying it's pretty weak at 13 and it stays weak throughout the rest of it. I'm more so saying I think there could be some back end lottery talent past, where it usually ends in the lottery.
So I don't know how far your research goes, but so Ryan mentioned Tristan. I think it's Vucevic,
Is it
and
Nicola's brother?
I saw some stuff that said second round. But yeah, like I would imagine that anytime you get a big center, like that's the comparison. Is Jokic, right? Everyone wants who's going to be the next Jokic, who you draft late because nobody knows who it is. So I don't know anything other than some of the stuff that I saw had him as like a second round pick. So that's kind of interesting because
Serbian.
now the joke, right? The joke on Instagram and Twitter and such is Jokic was so late in the draft that they ran a Taco Bell commercial over his pick because it was like that round. So that whole thing is a crapshoot. But Draymond Green is a second round pick, so there are gems in the second round. I don't know if you can,
I know a few second rounders who I like for the Warriors. I mean, we're not talking about
how many
Santa
picks
Clara.
do they only have the one pick in the second round?
Ooh, that's a good question. Do they even have a second round pick?
I don't know if they do.
I feel like I
didn't
haven't
they
heard anything
trade
about
like
it.
5 of them or whatever to the Hawks for Gary Payton? All right, so we're gonna do a couple more of these in the next few weeks. Thanks to Ryan for the question. And so we'll be back next week, and we'll be talking more Warriors, more off season. I'm assuming there's going to be we'll probably have to wait for the finals to be over, and then there'll be movement. Especially there's going to be movement from a free agent perspective because Draymond will have to make his decision. But yeah, so short show, but there's bigger stuff coming. We know. And next week, do you want to tease who's going to be your prize fit for next week?
We're probably going. We've done a forward and we've done a center. We're probably going to start going to guard.
Okay, that's a good enough tease. We don't have to tell them anything more than that. All right, thank you for those folks who are watching live. Appreciate you all, and also for you folks listening on the pod. So for Bri, I am Double G. We'll see you when we see you. Peace out.